Hi guys, this is a discussion about the OnePlus 5. Now OnePlus 5 is a smartphone which is dubbed to be a flagship killer. It's a phone that's available at a price lower than the flagships such as the Samsung Galaxy S8 or the iPhone 7 or even the LG G6. But it claims to offer more features, it claims to offer some of the same hardware, and it claims to offer a better camera in some aspects. So today we are going to be talking about this phone because it launched in India one day before, that is on June 22nd. So OnePlus 5 was launched globally on June 20th and 2 days later it was launched in India. The price of this smartphone, there are two variants. One is the 6GB RAM and 64GB storage variant. The price of that is 32,999 rupees. And there is another variant which has 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. The price of that is 37,999 rupees. So I am Pranay Parab and I am going to be talking about this phone along with two people who've been using this phone for 2 weeks. So this is
Royden, hi.
And this is
Rishi, good morning.
He's a games editor, he's a reviews editor, and I'm the host of the podcast Orbital, which you should definitely check out, gadgets.ndtv.com/podcast. So first up, we should talk about the OnePlus 5. Its defining feature, according to the company at least, is the camera. Now over the years, the OnePlus 3 and the 3T, they had a decent enough camera, but something that was not exactly great, wasn't really comparable with, say, the flagships of the time. But OnePlus 5, now they've claimed to crack it. So is it really as good?
So it's definitely better than the 3T in terms of low light, but overall I would say it's just a marginal improvement, especially if you're shooting a lot of stills. For video, I'm not entirely convinced that it is the best tool of choice.
Yeah, there were some issues, right? As in they had a dual camera thing, but that was not really available, as in some features were not working.
Yeah, so the highlight feature of the phone is dual camera. I mean, the statement is right there on the box itself. But however, after using it, the dual camera setup just doesn't feel complete. It just feels rushed and it doesn't really feel like it's well thought of. Because like the iPhone 7 Plus, the second camera at the back is a telephoto camera. So you can use, the idea is for it, if you want to zoom into your subject, instead of using digital zoom, you just switch to the second sensor. So you don't have to deal with any artifacting or pixelation when you do digital zoom. However, this feature right now, at least from what we've tested, only seems to work in the default photo mode, and that too if the lighting is very good. However, when you switch it to any other mode like video or time-lapse or slow motion or pro mode even, zooming in to any amount, even 2x or even slightly lower, does not switch to the second sensor, which means you are still doing technically digital zoom, although OnePlus say it's lossless zoom.
Yeah, so OnePlus has actually promised that a bunch of updates will fix these features, but at the moment they've shipped a phone with incomplete camera features. So if you're buying it right now, you need to keep that in mind. The dual camera thingy will work in some modes, but not in all of them.
And in fact, that's something the company even commented on at the event yesterday. I'd spoken to them at length, asking them about, several issues about the camera, such as, well, as Royden pointed out, the telephoto sensor being a point of concern, as well as whether OIS and EIS is going to make it in a later update. What they claim at this point in time is that that they'll be adding more features in the months to come. And in terms of OIS specifically, they believe that, and this is frankly where a lot of us at Gadgets 360 find very amusing, is that the software and the fine-tuning on Oxygen OS and the software processing and the image signal processing on the camera has reached a point where OIS isn't a requirement at this stage.
Yeah,
and
sure.
To be honest, I think that's just their way of saying that we'll probably look at user feedback, because all the tech is there for OIS. Why it's not implemented is another question.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of questions from people who have been following us on YouTube. That is youtube.com/gadgets360. And these are people who've been subscribing to our channel and hitting the thumbs up button if they like our videos. So we will get to them. But before we do that, I suppose we should just quickly mention what the full form of OIS is, what is EIS, and what are these features, why do they matter?
So OIS is optical image stabilization. So if you're someone like me who doesn't exactly take the best photos and has really shaky hands, it actually combats that to a large degree. And it's kind of useful if you're the sort who more or less depends on a tripod to take photos.
Yeah, he has itchy trigger syndrome. See, gamer.
Yeah, so EIS on the other hand does not have any hardware to adjust for your shakes. It doesn't move the lens around when you shake. So it's basically a software base, and it basically stands for electronic image stabilization. So it's basically doing it on a software level, just how Google Pixel does it. but not as good as Google Pixel.
Yeah, well, so that's the overarching theme with this phone, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be the flagship killer, but it's not as good as any of the flagships in all aspects. In some aspects, it may be, like the Snapdragon 835
Yeah.
processor is as good as the flagships, but in others, like the camera,
Yeah.
it still has a ways to go. So speaking of the camera,
Yeah.
a YouTube commenter called Raja Roy has asked us whether the Samsung Galaxy S8 camera is better than the OnePlus 5's camera. So Rodin, I believe you've been testing the camera extensively.
Yeah, we have been testing the camera. In fact, we have compared it to a bunch of phones, including the S8 Plus, and we will have a video and an article on that on the site really soon. So stay tuned for that. So to answer his question, no, the S8 Plus is definitely a better camera. Has a better camera for photos and video. Although in low light, the OnePlus 5 does come pretty close due to the larger aperture. It's actually a marked improvement over the 3T. But overall, I would still say the S8 and the S8 Plus have a better camera overall.
Yeah, so there are like a bunch of questions with like similar themes, so we
Yeah.
should just like do a quick fire round for
Sure.
these. So a person called Nitesh Doreja is asking us whether spending 3,000 extra on the OnePlus 5 is worth it if camera is the only priority.
This is a tough one. I'm inclined to say no. It's not really worth it. The 3D is still has a very capable camera, as you will see in our test, especially for video and even daylight shots. The only place it suffers is in the night shots, but again, it's not terrible. So I would say if camera is your only priority, then the 3D is still a very good option. Plus, you save 3,000 rupees. So.
Yeah, so Elroy Dantes is asking a similar question. He
Okay.
also asked whether camera performance is how it compares to OnePlus 3T, but
Yeah.
that you've already answered.
Yeah.
So we'll move to the second part of his question,
Okay.
which is do both rear cameras have EIS or OIS? So we just addressed this a few minutes ago, but I suppose we just
Yeah,
recap
sure.
it.
So just to put it shortly, only the main camera, the 16 megapixel camera has EIS. The second 20 megapixel camera does not support EIS. However, there is EIS for the front camera for video.
Yeah, all right. So we also have some questions regarding comparisons with the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, obviously everybody has noticed the fact that this OnePlus 5's camera looks exactly like the iPhone 7 Plus's camera. So naturally,
I think that's just one of the many similarities. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So naturally, they're wondering whether the OnePlus 5's telephoto lens compares fares well if you compare it against the iPhone 7 Plus's telephoto lens.
So it's actually good. It's as good as the iPhone 7 and maybe slightly better if you're shooting indoors. So we did notice that the picture shot through the telephoto lens on the OnePlus 5 in indoors is less grainier and the colors are a bit more punchy. So I would say it's a tad better than the iPhone 7 Plus.
All right. And iPhone 7 Plus, the telephoto lens, does it work in video or is it only for
Yeah,
stills?
so that's the thing. The iPhone doesn't cheat you in that way. It does. It does work in video. You can clearly see it switching to the second sensor when you hit 2x.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the problem, right, with these phones. And my issue with, say, Google Pixel or OnePlus 5 has
Yeah.
always been that,
Yeah.
you know, great phones, okay, sure, but why are you shipping beta hardware? Like, if it's not ready, don't ship it.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't think it's just a question of this being an issue on the Android side of things, because you also have to understand that when the 7 Plus shipped, photo mode came in as a beta test for a lot of users much later. The portrait mode rather, sorry, came as a beta test much later. So I think it's a question of of manufacturers getting to grips and getting to terms with dual camera technology, and then trying to figure out the best implementation at the best time. So I think this could just be the first of many devices we're going to see that ships with an incomplete feature set. So if you're the sort who's looking for a phone with a good camera, and if you don't mind waiting, I still think it would make sense to wait, particularly with dual camera setups coming in.
Yeah, but I think I will say this, that even when the iPhone the portrait mode did come in later, the defining feature wasn't exactly portrait mode, and they did clearly say that it was a beta feature. So it's not like they say that this is a finished feature, and and the second camera was used in more places rather than just photo. You can use it in video, you can use it in other modes as well. So it's not like you were waiting for portrait mode to finally use the second telephoto.
Yeah, the problem is not that this feature isn't exactly working properly. The real problem here is that OnePlus did not explicitly mention that and did not say that this would be coming in a future update or anything like that. They said that this is a finished feature, and when we got the review unit, we started using this feature. We found out that it doesn't work as advertised. So that level of transparency is something that OnePlus could probably work on.
Yeah, and just another chink in the camera armor would be that there is no stabilization at 4K, which is again a huge disappointment because every other flagship does this, including the Pixel, which also has EIS, and it does a great job at stabilization at 4K, but this thing does not support anything at 4K.
Yeah, and I mean their only comments at this stage are that they're going to be adding more features. When they add them, how they add them, hopefully we'll know sooner rather than later. They're not committing to to a specific rollout on specific features at this stage, but they're just saying they're going to support it over the course of its 2 years.
Yeah, alright. So final question about camera is how does it compare against the iPhone 7?
Overall, if you're just looking at stills, then definitely the OnePlus 5 is a better camera for still photos. Again, video, I would nod towards the iPhone 7. It just does a much better job with colors and stabilization for video.
Yeah, and also there's like a price difference, right, between these two phones. So
yeah, true. I mean, it's not really a fair comparison. They're like in two different
I mean, even if you look at current price of the iPhone, if you go to any site like Flipkart or Amazon, you probably buy the 32GB version for something like 43,000.
Yeah.
And the OnePlus 5 is available at what, 33,000.
33,
so
yeah.
It's not really a fair comparison, to be honest.
Yeah.
So speaking of these comparisons, the next topic in our list is comparisons against other phones. So lots of people have been looking at many other phones in the market and wondering whether the OnePlus 5 outperforms them.
Yeah.
So without naming a name, I'm gonna read out this frankly ridiculous question, which is basically asking whether the OnePlus 5, which is for 33,000 rupees, fares well against the iPhone SE 32GB, which is for 21,000 rupees. Now the question here is, which would be more value for money and future proof according to you guys?
That's like literally comparing apples and oranges, and us saying we like oranges because oranges taste better. It literally just boils down to that. That is like so subjective.
Man, but ultimately Apple is good for your health, man. So everybody should get apples.
But vitamin C. So point is, I mean, I don't know. But honestly, if we were to take an honest stab at this, I would just look at it from a point of view of software support. And that's something where I have to say, as Pranay says, Apple does a better job.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I look at. But then that aside, there is actually no real point of comparison because they're two phones at two very different price points.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, the feature set is also quite disparate between the two to a large degree. So the form factors are different, the camera usage is different, the OS itself is very different. It just boils down to support at the end of the day and what you want to place your bet on.
So, if just to answer this future-proofing question, the correct answer is no phone is future-proof. Every phone that you buy 1 year down the line will be dated, even if it is an iPhone. So don't be under that illusion that I buy this phone, it'll last me for 10 years or 20 years, and that never works out really. So if you have 33,000, buy the OnePlus 5. If you have 21,000, buy the iPhone SE.
It's simple as that.
Yeah, all right. So we have some more questions here. Somebody is asking whether the OnePlus 5 is a worthy upgrade from the S6. Now I'm going to assume this is the Samsung Galaxy S6 because there are a bunch of other S6 over here. But let's just compare it against that one. This is from somebody called Faisal Shelia.
Yeah, I think it would be a good upgrade over the S6 overall in terms of performance, the camera and everything. Display resolution, probably you would be a little disappointed because the S6 had a higher resolution compared to this one, which is still stuck at 1080p, sadly.
Yeah, but the S6 got an upgrade to Android Nougat recently, this year sometime.
It did, but I'm guessing the performance is definitely not going to be near as quick as Oxygen OS.
I mean, I would agree because let's be honest here, all said and done, outside of the stock Android experience on the Pixel, if you're looking at it from a pure user interaction and UI and menus and just the day-to-day experience, I think OnePlus pretty much has nailed it. And if you're moving from an S6, which was using some variant of TouchWiz, which is notorious for lagging after a point in time, you will see a huge difference. And in fact, it actually also goes to show that while, I mean, if you look at the S6 at launch was around 45, 50, I guess, I could be wrong. I'm thinking that you'll probably get your money's worth at 32, 33 for the S8 for the OnePlus 5.
Yeah, so TouchWiz got much better with this year's Samsung Galaxy S8, but the experience frankly is not as good in the Samsung Galaxy S6. So if you're considering an upgrade to the OnePlus 5, then that's like a no-brainer. Just go for it. Alright, another question, which is also frankly very ridiculous, which is OnePlus 5 or Xiaomi Mi 6. Now Mi 6 has not launched in India, so if you have the money right now, buy the OnePlus 5.
No, there is a way around it though. I mean, you can import the Mi 6. There are ways to import.
No, this person is asking if Xiaomi will launch it in India.
So yeah, then no.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
we can't recommend.
yeah,
that.
if you go into that territory, then will Apple give me iPhone 7 Plus 256 GB for 50 rupees? No, they won't give it to me. So OnePlus 5 is available right now, just buy it.
Yeah.
Alright. Then there's another question which is actually very interesting. So Tarun Bharti is asking us whether OnePlus 5 is better than the iPhone 6s 32GB. Now, the important point here is that currently these phones are available at roughly the same price point.
So I would say it definitely has better value, because if you think about it, the 6S is going to drop another generation this year, which again would make it a bit more dated. With the OnePlus 5, you're just getting more decent hardware, and definitely should be getting much better support in the long run as well. So I would say the OnePlus 5.
Yeah, so this person claims that he's been using an Android phone only until now, so he's wondering if switching to iOS with the 6S is worth it.
I don't know, it's a very interesting time in the iOS ecosystem, because we're a couple of months away from the next phone. And obviously in the run up to the next phone, you're going to see a lot of discounts, and there are probably going to even be more discounts in the weeks and months to come. But personally, if you had to buy an iOS device, you'd still want to go with the 7 or 7 Plus over the 6S, simply because in terms of, again, support. We know for a fact that Apple will support the 7 longer than they are of the 6S at this point in time, because well, the 7 has been around for a shorter period versus the 6S, which I think is almost like 2 years now. So you're definitely going to get more mileage out of a 7 or a 7 Plus. That's how at least we would see it at this stage. Though, I mean, personally, if I had to choose between the 6S or the OnePlus 5, I'd have to say the OnePlus 5.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give you a brief lowdown on how the iPhones thing works. So now if you're going for an iPhone 6s right now, it's, as he said, a phone which is almost 18, 19, 20 months old at this point. And by September, the new iPhone will launch. By October or November, the new iPhone will be in India, which means the 7 will be available at a similar price as the 6s is right now. So if you're going for a phone right now, just wait for all these sales. Currently, there are several GST sales going on Amazon, Flipkart and all these sites. So the price of the 7 is actually not that high. So just keep an eye out. A 732GB has dropped as low as 39,499 in the recent weeks. So if you want to switch to iOS, get the 7, because in another 3 months the 7 will be 1 year old. And if you want to switch to iOS, the 6S is definitely not a good idea. So if you don't want to do that, don't want to spend more money, OnePlus 5 once again. And the next question is, should the person buy, Nikhil Bangar wants to know whether he should buy LG G6 or the OnePlus 5.
Good question.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because there are trade-offs on both sides.
Yeah.
With the G6, you get a more modern design. You get a more modern aesthetic with less bezels, more viewing space, more immersive display. You get HDR on the screen as well, which I think is, I mean, personally, I think that's a big plus point. And the design, the feel, the grip, the industrial look and feel is a lot better in my opinion.
A more functional second camera at the back too.
More functional second camera at the back. Plus you actually get what you expect from a flagship in terms of waterproofing and the ruggedness you've come to expect. And that's something where the OnePlus 5 lacks. You're not going to get waterproofing on the OnePlus 5. You're not going to get a bezel-free display or anything close to it rather. I mean, they've reduced the bezels on the side, but it's not there yet. So yeah, but at the same time on the OnePlus 5 you get much better internals. You get the Snapdragon 835, you get up to 8 gigs of RAM. So it's a trade-off depending on what you want. But in terms of camera?
Yeah, camera again, it's kind of a toss-up, but I would say the G6 just has a better overall camera package. Like I would rather, like the wider angle secondary camera on the G6 is definitely going to be a lot more useful in your day-to-day, rather than, you know, just how many portraits are you really going to be shooting on a daily basis. So I would say the G6 for the camera.
Yeah, okay, so slightly, I mean, probably in the more budget section question, which is OnePlus 5 better than the Samsung Galaxy C7 Pro and the Oppo F3 Plus?
Oh yeah, definitely,
so,
to put it shortly.
But what is the price difference between these phones? I have no idea.
These are, I think, also are nearing around 30, roughly 30. 28, 29.
Yeah, so then, I mean, spend a little more, you get a lot better hardware. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of these questions are fairly obvious, but then, obviously, like our readers are following us and our viewers are following us and they just want to know. So I just thought we should clear this out.
Sure.
And I think we have one last question in this segment, which is should a person go for OnePlus 5 or the Google Pixel? Now, let me just remind everyone over here that the Google Pixel is currently going for a big, say, discount, which is around 13,000-14,000. So it puts it like the OnePlus 5 is at 38,000, the higher variant, and the Google Pixel, the base variant, is close to 43-44.
Yeah.
So the comparison is actually not as bad as it sounds.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Personally, I mean, look, with the Google Pixel getting a price drop, let's also keep in mind that globally, at least the reports we've seen, is that it hasn't sold that well. Now, that might change with the next phone, which is again rumored to be made by LG, but then to get that, you'll be paying a lot more. Right now, considering the user experience on the OnePlus 5 is as close to stock Android as we've seen in the longest time, to the point where OnePlus has also allowed you to have a full to have all your icons rounded like it is on stock Android. That's a very close toss up at this stage. I'd still say, I mean, I'd still say that well, you probably might want to see the toss up simply because on support both are unproven. We've received a lot of user complaints on the Pixel, and OnePlus has, even though OnePlus has pledged better support on their phones going forward, it's still untested. So that's where the big defining issue is, in my opinion, where the after sales support is yet unknown on how well they can deliver.
Yeah, but in general, my advice to everybody is that never buy the first generation of any hardware. Google Pixel, while it is an amazing phone in so many ways, because it's a first generation hardware, Google is also learning a lot of things, and all of these things will be fixed when they launch the next phone, which may be called the Pixel 2. So until then, I would suggest that just wait it out. It's just a matter of a few months. The Pixel 2 will be here, and trust me, it will be easily available. It won't be out of stock anytime soon. So definitely wait if you're considering getting a Pixel. But yeah, OnePlus 5, if you're in the market, solid phone.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a better phone.
And the only other thing, at least from a software standpoint, is Google tends to bundle in its assistant a lot more tighter on its version of Android, which is not going to be the case with the OnePlus 5. So if you're expecting 100% from Mountain View type 100% built from Mountain View experience as Sundar Pichai and friends envisioned it, you might want to do the Pixel. Otherwise, the OnePlus 5 is a better bet.
Yeah, all right. So one very interesting question from Vatsal Kumar. He asked that should he buy the OnePlus 5 because he's bought the OnePlus 3T just 3 months ago. So is it worth it upgrading right now, or should he just wait it out and get another phone?
Let me see, how do I put this? No.
No, just don't.
Don't even think about it. Like, get that thought out of your mind.
Yeah, all right.
Because there's also one other thing. OnePlus has committed to 2 years worth of updates for the 3T since its launch. So if you picked it up 3 months ago, you should be good to go for at least another year and a half. And honestly, considering how rapid the support has been from its community and how the community feedback has been to some of OnePlus's moves in the past, such as promising OnePlus 2 upgrade support until 2017 and canning that, I think they've learned their lesson and they would probably fix that. But then again, when I spoke to the company about this point in particular in terms of support for software going forward, all they're willing to say at this point in time is that we made a promise for 2 years, we're going to try to stick by it. Whether they actually do or not, again, is yet to be proven. But honestly, I wouldn't suggest trading up so soon. I mean, you still get a very competent device, and you still get the same amount of storage space at 128 gigs. And more importantly, if you're like me, who plays a bunch of games on your cell phone, the performance is still a lot more optimized in newer titles such as Asphalt 8, which to me is a big deal because you don't want to see drop of frames on the OnePlus 5 because it hasn't been optimized yet.
Yeah, so Vatsal, if you have a lot of money, just wait 3 months. The Samsung Galaxy Note 8 and the iPhone 8 will be out. So buy one of those instead of spending money on a OnePlus 5.
And maybe the 5T.
The 5T, that too.
Alright then, so lots of people have questions around design and features of the smartphone as well. So since we have 2 units of the OnePlus 5 here, we should be answering some of these very quickly. So somebody is asking is, do you think the OnePlus 5 has done a good job in terms of design? It seems to look like the Oppo R11. This is Sai Krishna.
Yes, so I don't think they have, honestly. It's too much of a dead ringer for other phones. And R11 is one phone that came to mind, the iPhone 7 Plus is another. And to be honest, I just feel that, so look, OnePlus's logic is they ended up with a design that's similar to others because of the way the camera is arranged. And while I get that, I mean that does make sense. But then for a company that goes by the slogan "Never Settle," it feels like we kind of had to settle on design for this. So for me, that's one of the biggest drawbacks. And I mean, when we did speak to the company and asked them, you know, your phone looks like the R11, your phone looks like the 7 Plus. What's the deal there? I mean, they basically deflected by saying that, oh, you know, use the iPhone 7 Plus or whatever phone you like and use this and you'll see the difference.
Yeah, the exact quote was hold the iPhone 7 Plus in one hand and the OnePlus in the other hand, and then you'll see the difference. Yeah, man, I see the difference. I know which is better.
So I don't know. I just think that's posturing on their side, and I think it's a little sad. I think this is where, if you're a fan of OnePlus or if you're in the market for a new phone, keep in mind this is one area where they have settled.
Yeah, so another viewer of our YouTube channel is asking, this is Chirag Sharma. So he's asking which color is better, the grey or the black one. So what do you think, Royden?
Yeah, I mean, we got the grey unit first, which it was alright, but after seeing the black one, we would definitely put our money on the black.
Yeah, this doesn't even look like grey. It looks like some kind of purple,
it's very hard to tell. Yeah,
purple alloy thing. I don't know
it's
what it
basically black and not so black.
Yeah.
That's essentially the color choices. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, slate grey is only on the 6 gig, right?
Yeah, so I think that's another little fast one that OnePlus has pulled at the last moment, because initially we were told that the phones, both the variants, the 6 and the 8 gig will be available in both color options. But clearly, given the pricing that they settled at, I'm pretty sure the 8 gig wouldn't have been as popular as the 6 gig, which is why they've kept the black version, which is the better one, only for the 128GB, 8GB version.
Yeah, and also an important thing to note is, for whoever is wondering, this phone, at least from a build quality standpoint, is quite slippery. I mean, if you look at the back, I can hold it and it's just like it's falling out of my hand, and I'm like getting a heart attack right now because, you know, if the phone breaks.
So yeah, which was also interesting because at the launch they stressed on the fact that they didn't go with a completely flat design to improve grip. But yeah, we don't exactly see that making a difference, to be honest.
Yeah. So, Royden, do you want to talk about some of the issues we had with the camera, like in terms of build quality?
So on the grey unit that we had, so what OnePlus has done with this one is the beveled edges around, like the speaker grill and the USB port and everything, have been painted black, and they've also done a little black paint around the edge of the camera bump. Now, the grey unit, which is supposedly a pre-production unit that we got because it's like from an early batch or something, had a lot of paint, like the paint around the edges started chipping very easily, like within a day of usage. And this is not like rough usage, it's just regular keeping it on the table and picking it up type usage. The black one has sort of held its own. It's not as noticeable, but if you look closely, there is some portions are fading slightly, so it's kind of worrying at this point. We are hoping that this is only due to isolated to the review units that were sent to the media folk. So we'll have to wait and see, I'm guessing, from you guys when you actually buy the retail unit. You know, whether this is actually an issue or not.
Yeah, unfortunately this is not something which we can really address because you know, only OnePlus knows what actually is the issue with the build quality and which units have it or not, and they've told us that they've fixed it in the final production units, which is the ones you should be buying.
And also keep in mind that that these issues around the camera have happened with the use of a case as well. If I'm not mistaken, we've used a case on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think with the case it sort of protects the bump, but I think without the case it's a lot more.
Yeah, so that's another thing to keep in mind. You might want to use a case.
Yeah, so Abhishek Datta is asking, is a case included in the box?
No, there is no case in the box.
Like what you do get in the box, you can check out our video on the unboxing, but you essentially get a charger, the phone, and a nice postcard from Kalpe thanking you for buying the product.
Oh, and some stickers.
Yeah, some stickers.
Alright, Lokesh has asked that is the fingerprint sensor faster than the OnePlus 3T?
No, I think it's about the same. I mean, it's hard to actually tell the actual speed, but it's pretty damn fast.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, this phone, yesterday we posted the video review of this phone, and a lot of people on our YouTube channel could not tell the difference between this and the OnePlus 3T and the OnePlus 3. They thought that this OnePlus 5 was actually the OnePlus 3T. So I think, from as far as the front is concerned, every feature is the same. Display is pretty much the same. Fingerprint sensor is pretty much the same.
Although speaking of the display, they have added one nice touch, which is the DCI P3 color profile, which is a lot more pleasing to the eye, and it's the same color gamut that the new iPhones and new iPad Pro uses. So that is one good touch.
Yeah. So another question here is a lot of basic questions which even I can answer, even though I'm not that big on Android.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of them is Chirag asked, does it support call recording? Yes, it is baked in, but even if it is not, you can go to Google Play and download your favorite call recording app and be done with the whole thing. Then Tirtha is asking, does it have features like gestures, dark mode, and other customization features like the OnePlus 3T?
Yes.
Yeah, it gets all of them, including more modes. Like there's a reading mode, which is a really cool feature. It basically turns the screen monochrome, and it actually adjusts the color tone of the whites. So depending on the ambient light, so you can it switches anything between a pale yellow to a pale white.
Yeah. I mean, at least my only personal issue I've had with the customization options, while they're plenty and quite generous, like the 3T, is that your wallpaper choices you don't have any cool solid color choices or abstract art choices as you did with the 3T. They have that cool image of a whale and an iceberg and a bunch of nice MC Escher style wallpapers which you could use, but they've replaced it with something called the Shot on OnePlus Gallery, which lets you, take pictures from other OnePlus fans and use them as your wallpaper.
Yeah, Rishi actually went out in the real world to click a picture. Like, this is a very surprising thing for people at Gadgets 360.
Hey,
yeah, I think the solution to the wallpaper thing would be Google wallpapers.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean that's the only point of contention I have.
Yeah.
Gestures are pretty cool this time around. You can customize them to like almost anything, and yeah, all the lovely stuff like being able to customize your back and front buttons is also there. So
yeah, so we have some eagle-eyed YouTube commenters. One of them is called Ritvik Kaushik, and he's asked the $1 million question, or in this case, should we call it the 33,000 rupee question, which is, why doesn't the OnePlus 5 have waterproofing? Now we have a guy here, Rishi Alwani. He's the one who's he's gone to OnePlus and he's asked them, why doesn't it have waterproofing? So you want to tell us?
So there are a lot of reasons why they don't have all the cool stuff we want, and that's something which we personally felt should have been there, right? So in terms of why no waterproofing, in terms of why no bezel-less display, the answer is essentially a bunch of things which came out through our conversation. One of them being that they claim that yes, they're a smaller company versus others, versus Samsungs and Apples and the rest of them, and because they're a smaller company, they're competing for the same amount of hardware and they're competing with this for the same amount of components, right? For them, the question is that the price for components is still being higher. They still want to have value at the right point, and it's also a question for them to have the focus on certain elements that they feel are better for their users in specific use cases. So, while they might forsake waterproofing in this case, which I think is a big, down point, they decided that fast autofocus on the camera is a bigger priority. And for them, everything this year has been done around the camera, to the point where they've gone on record saying that for India specifically, camera is the biggest feature. Sure, it might have 8 gigs of RAM, which is more than your average PC or average laptop, and the processor might be top of the line, but for India, it's camera, and that's how they want to go. That's how they went about it. Because considering the timelines on making a phone, that's the choice they made. They decided it was a trade-off for them between focusing on more RAM and more camera, or adding all the cool stuff we'd like wireless charging or IP68 ratings. But so that's the reason they don't have it. It was a question of focus.
Yeah, there's still one question which that does not answer, which is that it rains a lot in many places in India. So if you're that kind of a person who gets wet in the rain and clicks pictures, well, Samsung Galaxy S8, iPhone 7,
exactly,
but not OnePlus 5.
Exactly, that's essentially what you're reduced to.
All right, so there are a lot of questions around performance as well. So I think Royden, let's just answer them in one sentence or less. Okay, is OnePlus 5 the fastest Android flagship in the world? Kavin Prashant wants to know.
It's hard to say at this point, but if you go by benchmark numbers, it might just be,
And in terms of real performance, at least from the games we tested, it pretty much holds its own. I think it's one of the few phones that actually plays San Andreas with no problems. Asphalt 8 had a few issues, but that aside, it's pretty decent. Yeah,
so somebody called Freak Out Loud, I'm going to believe that it's his or her real name, is asking, how long can you game continuously on the OnePlus 5?
That's a very good question. Here's something you can go by, which you might find helpful. For gaming in 15-minute intervals, we saw a 3% drop. So do the math. You can probably get that much.
Yeah, all right. We also have some people asking questions like Roshan Pradhan is asking what is the average screen on time of OnePlus 5?
Yeah, so I think from what we've tested we got about 5.5 hours of screen on time, which is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And then Kavarpal Sharma is asking, does the OnePlus 5 play YouTube videos at 60 frames per second?
Yes, it does. I have checked it and it does play it at 60.
All right. Francis Frank wants to know how much time it takes to fully charge the OnePlus 5.
Oh, so I think the charging time is remained pretty much similar to the 3T. So you, in about 90 minutes or so, you should be able to charge it from 0 to.
Yeah, the rather bulky dash charger is
Yeah.
included in the box. It looks ugly, but it works like charming.
And if you're coming from the 3 or 3T, which has a smaller charger,
Yeah.
I think you could safely add another 30 minutes to the 90. At least that's what, in my testing, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Because I've been using it with the 3T charger. So.
Yeah, so Manoj HP is asking a slightly controversial question, which is what about that story of OnePlus bumping frequency in benchmarks?
So obviously we've not been able to like verify that as such, but we did notice that. I mean, we did run a few benchmarks before
The controversy broke out.
yeah, before the embargo lifted. The ones actually which didn't need an internet connection. And then we also ran them after the new firmware dropped, which was the 4.5.1, which released just after the international keynote by Kalpe. And the numbers actually dropped by about 5 to 7%.
Oh.
So yeah, so probably whatever was happening in the original firmware that shipped with the phones probably was fixed in
Yeah, but personally, I wish the
Yeah.
specifications and benchmark war would just end. Ultimately, the real thing is real world performance.
Yeah.
Does the phone hang or lag during use?
Absolutely not. I
Yeah.
think this is like one of the few phones that I've come across recently, which is just crazy fast. No matter what you do, there's absolutely no stutter, which is
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
And honestly, considering our experience with the 3 and 3D, which kind of held their own after the honeymoon period,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if that remains the same with this phone 6 months down the line.
Yeah, so Manoj, my advice to you is stop worrying about these theoretical benchmarks and theoretical numbers. You should really look at real world performance, and it is excellent. All right, so we have another person who's asking a rather complicated question. This is Saurabh Chaturvedi wants to know what is the difference between the 6 GB version and the 8 GB version of the OnePlus 5?
So apart from more RAM, obviously, you also get double the storage. But apart from that, there's really no difference between the two phones, and of course the colors. So the 128 is only available in black.
Yeah, so
I mean,
64 GB is enough for most people, isn't it?
I don't know. It also depends on your use case.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're the sort who shoots a lot of photos and you want to edit raw files and you want everything on your device locally, I mean, to me, it's not a question of 6 gigs versus 8 gigs in terms of RAM. It's more a question of 64 gigs of storage versus 128, because we're at that stage where I think, even 6 gigs of RAM is overkill. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so it just boils down to how much local storage you want on your phone at a given point in time, and that's how I would suggest you look at your buying decision.
All right. So last few questions, and we got about like 4 or 5 more questions to run through. So the first one is actually like it looks more like a thesis, like a PhD thesis than a question. But anyway, I'll still go through it. Sandeepan Samanta has written a rather long thing where he's asked multiple questions. So first one is, why does a Chinese brand like OnePlus, which is yet to complete 3 years in the market, why does it get compared with premium brands like Sony, HTC, Apple, Samsung and LG?
Well, I don't think it's got anything to do with how long the company has been in. I mean, they've been known to make good products and quality products, and if they are giving you the current top of the line technology that other companies are, then why not compare them?
Yeah, exactly. Google has been in the market for literally 1 year
Exactly.
or less.
Yeah.
So Google Pixel gets compared with all the other flagships.
Yeah.
Why not? I don't think that's really a criteria. Second question is from the same guy, Sandeepan. A phone which doesn't have a quad HD screen, no IP certification, no micro SD slot, no wireless charging,
Ouch.
no radio, no infrared, no front flash, no secondary screen, no quad DAC, no stereo speakers, doesn't even provide earphones in the box, is referred to as a flagship killer just for 835 SoC and 6 GB of RAM. Why is this?
Dude, you are a legend. Seriously, you are a legend. You have basically said everything that's been going through my head since this phone was announced. And I agree with you completely. To be honest, I don't think it's a stage where it's a flagship killer anymore.
Yeah.
It's just another flagship at a lower price. And I mean, while I do agree that all these features should be there, because if you look at how the company presents itself, and I think that also goes back to his very first question: how can a company with 3 years on the market compare itself to the others? Well, I think it just boils down to price at the end of the day. You're getting what you pay for, which is sadly, I mean, from the point of view of, even though you're losing on all these spec, you're still paying, I think, 15 to 20,000 less compared to flagships from other companies.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that point of view, it's a trade-off. So I wouldn't look at it as a flagship, as more as an alternative to other more premium phones on the market. And if you look at it that way, I mean, yeah, there is a slightly better perception, I guess. But I mean, I agree completely, man. It is quite lacking in a lot of things you'd expect from a modern flagship.
Yeah, so what we've learned right now is that Sandeepan Samanta is actually Rishi's alternative YouTube ID, and he's gone and posted this question so that he can say what he feels. Yeah. All right. Similar question is Ambrose wants to know, is OnePlus 5 really a flagship killer or a flagship device?
So it is a flagship device, but I don't think it's a flagship killer, and I don't think the company is focusing on becoming a flagship. I think they're moving away from that. They want to move away from that whole flagship killer title. The OnePlus 5 is sadly just an iterative update over the 3T. So if you were expecting it to have all the features of the S8 and the iPhone 7 Plus and the G6 and still be like 20 to 30,000 cheaper, then that's not what it is.
I mean, it's something they even said at length, which is
Yeah.
we cornered them on price, and we did ask them a bunch of questions, because if you compare the price of the OnePlus 1, OnePlus 2, OnePlus 3, 3T and OnePlus 5, this is the most expensive phone they've ever made.
Yeah.
And to them, the logic boils down to the fact that that they're playing up the whole we're a small company mentality, which is great to a point. But then when you're owned by BBK, which runs Oppo and Vivo, that doesn't hold up in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you should repeat that, because I don't think it was clear enough.
So OnePlus is owned by BBK. BBK is the company behind Oppo and Vivo. So even though they want to claim they're a startup and they claim that they're run by a startup, I don't think it exactly holds true. And the other thing also to do with price is their logic is, but if you look at every other flagship, it's more expensive than what you paid 3 years ago. Cost of components are higher. We have to choose what to focus on. And I agree with that to a point, but I would also say that it also becomes an issue because you're promising one thing and you're delivering another thing altogether. And to me, it's a bit misleading.
Yeah.
And I do agree completely that, to me, it's not a flagship device, it's a flagship alternative.
Yeah, all right. So 2 questions regarding whether the smartphone is worth buying. First one is from Francis Frank, who asked another question earlier. He wants to know whether the OnePlus 5 is the best phone in its price range.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. Especially the 6GB version offers really, really good value at the moment. Yeah.
All right. And Anandu is asking a question on a similar note, which is going with the 6GB variant, is it better than going with the 8GB variant? He wants to know specifically in terms of the price to performance ratio.
Yeah, the 6GB version will definitely give you a better price to performance ratio. Unless you really need the extra storage, then you have no choice but to shell out more. But if 64GB is enough for you, then this is all you really need.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, I don't think anybody with a smartphone particularly needs 8GB of RAM. It's way too much right now. It may change in the future, obviously, but 6GB of RAM should be more than enough.
But they could have just gone with 6 and 128 like the 3T, but I'm guessing since just to add another differentiating factor, they just maybe threw in 2 gigs more.
Yeah, exactly.
Though they have said that their reason for going with 8 gig, even though it's overkill, they have said is because they want to make sure users are taken care of for 2 years. Now, whether that ends up being the case or not in terms of official software, from a hardware point, you're pretty much covered with 2 years of usage on 8 gigs.
Yeah, long and short of it is that if you need 128GB storage, get the more expensive version. Otherwise, 64GB should be more than enough.
Yeah.
Finally, last question for us is from Parth Thakkar, who is asking us whether the OnePlus is good at after-sales service.
Well, okay, from a personal experience time, guys, settle around the fireplace. I was one of the few people who ended up with the OnePlus 1 when it showed up here, picked it up from Amazon of all places, like everyone else. And the phone just died on me during a meeting, randomly just died. So I went to the after sales center. I was given the runaround for a couple of weeks. And then finally I got a new device. Actually, I didn't even get a new device. They replaced the motherboard and gave it back to me. And it was pretty much a harrowing experience at the time. And that was, I think, back when the OnePlus One launched. So we're talking, I think, 2014, 2015. And that was a bit of a harrowing experience, all said and done. Now, they claim that they have, I think, what, over 500 service centers, and I think 100 of them will do delivery as well to your house in an hour. They're claiming to have doubled down on it. They're tied up with Servify to allow for, you know, a better service center experience and accidental damage protection. They seem to have upped their game on it. Some of my friends who are diehard OnePlus enthusiasts who literally take every photo on Instagram with the shot on OnePlus hashtag swear by the customer support at this stage, but I know they're fanboys, so I personally can't take their word for it. It's just a wait and see, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no way like people like us can really comment on after sales service, because what happens with this kind of a thing is normally one person will have one bad experience and then go and try to tell the entire world that I had a bad experience with this particular brand, but you can't really quantify it. You can't really say that, you know, say for example 95% of OnePlus customers are satisfied or anything like that, unless you are OnePlus yourself. And I don't think any company in the world will release that data, like how many customers came for replacement and how many got it back, unless they have like a 100% track record, which nobody does. So, you know, this is something that is very hard to comment on for us journalists. Alright then, so yeah, that's about it for this video. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Gadgets360. And as always, I'll give you a second reminder, do like this video and do subscribe to our channel if you like this and want more videos like this.
And if you're looking for more OnePlus coverage, we've got the review, we've got the unboxing, we've got the gaming performance, and we even have a massive photo test coming up as well. So for all things OnePlus 5, you're already in the right place.
Gadgets360 it is.